And we are live. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to Forever Sports. It is team announcement day. Rassie Erasmus set to announce the Springbok teams take on Argentina on Saturday tonight. And obviously, time differences, so a bit of a different time team announcement to what we are used to. But we are going to have a team announcement today, which is going to be very exciting. Of course, we will be live later for the team announcement itself. So we'll actually be redirected to that live stream after this, and we'll be able to get into it a little bit later. But what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be predicting the team and sort of seeing where we think Rassie Erasmus is potentially going to go. And we're going to be predicting the 15, which I think makes it a bit more tricky. If we were doing the entire 23, it's probably quite straightforward, given the fact that there's only 26 players to choose from, to be honest. And I think that's where it's quite cool in terms of we're only doing the 15, because that creates a bit more jeopardy with regards to where we kind of are and what the interesting calls are going to be, because the big thing is front rows, combinations, who's starting, players back from injuries, and the likes of that. So there's a lot there to go through. Basically, what's going to happen in the next sort of half an hour to 40 minutes is we're going to be putting up polls on every single 1 through to 15 position, and you guys are going to give your vote on who you think will start, and we will then lock that in and see later when the team gets announced how close we were. And if you haven't already, go into my Pickstart app. That is what we are predicting on. So yeah, it looks like this, and you can go and submit your 15 where you think Rassie is going to select the different players, the likes of that, and see if you can get it right. And then when the team does come out, you'll get basically a score, and it'll see how many players you got right, did you get them in the right positions, and the likes of that. And you can actually create leagues and play against each other and sort of see who is the best predictor, who knows Rassie the best. Remember, this is not a case of what team you would like to see. This is a what team do you think Rassie is going to pick. That is the vibe here. So it's a very important lens to think about, because you know, for example, I did my prediction yesterday, not the team I'd like to see, but my prediction. And some people sit there saying, you know, no, why would you pick this guy? You know, I don't like him. And I said, well, it's not about who I would pick. It's about who I think Rassie is going to pick. And I think that is a very key difference. Jaden says, in my personal opinion, Cameron Harnecall needs a proper start at 8, needs to prove himself. K3 Andy, one of our members, saying, submitted my prediction the other day and immediately changed my mind. Rassie got me second guessing myself constantly. Hello, Matthew. How are you? Yeah, well, this is the problem, isn't it? And you kind of sometimes want to leave it as late as possible. But at the same time, you know, you don't want to miss the deadline, which is in 4 hours and 25 minutes. So you still do have time to go and submit your picks and see where you might sort of land up. But don't miss the deadline, because I can't help you. I can't help you. If you miss the deadline, you miss the deadline at the end of the day. So let's get into some of the predicting, shall we? So first one is, who starts at number 1? Question mark. Options are Bowen Venter. You've got Gerard Steenekamp. And you've also got a Jan Hendrik Wessels. That is JHW. And you technically also have Thomas de Toy, who does cover loose head as well. But at least because this is a bit of a smaller squad, it's much easier to be able to at least put them all into the poll. So get your votes in on who you think is going to start in the number 1 jersey, and we will then throw that into the mix. So if you think, for example, like a Zach Portman's going to be on the bench, we're not really covering the bench in terms of our prediction. What we'll chat about it and kind of see, based on our team, what then our bench could potentially look like. But we are not predicting the bench as part of our predictions here. It is just going to be the starting 15. So go and vote in the comments. Yeah, if you're new to the stream, it is the votes in the comments. You go and vote on the poll. We've got 50 people watching. Try to get to about 30, 40 odd votes, and we will then take the majority and throw that man into our side. Jaden says, I reckon it's going to be Bowen Venter, Kobalar, Zach Porthan, Eben Etzebeth, Lut Diaga. Interesting looking tight 5. He's thrown out his score prediction, his team prediction there. Don't just give it to me in the chat. Go onto my Pickstart app and go and get your team predicted, like K3 Andy has, one of our stalwart members. And if you'd like to come and join our WhatsApp group, by the way, where we'll be trying to, we're dropping quite a lot of exclusive stuff over there very soon, as well as a bit of the inside track, really, in terms of information to get, then please do consider becoming a member. The link is in the description, and you can join our members and you can be part of our WhatsApp community and be part of the vibes here at Forever Sports. So let's get the votes in over here. I'm going to try and close that vote off. Let's try and get about to at least 25 votes. Surely there's well over 50 people watching. We can get up to about 25 votes. That's only 50%. You know, come on, this can't be like a despot country with a very poor voting turnout here, people. We need to up our votes. We need to up the stakes here and make sure this is very representative of what you guys think, because this is the Forever Sports community team. This is not my team. This is your team. This has nothing to do with what I think is going to be picked. I've made my call. I've put the cock in the block. This is now your guys' proverbials on said blocks. So up to 19 votes here. Bowen Fent at the moment leading the charge. Yeah, and Hendrik Wessels very much not back to start at the moment, and Thomas Toy a couple of votes. But at the moment between Bowen Fent and Gerard Steenekamp, which I don't think is a bad shot, given that consistently we've seen Bowen Fent start and Steenekamp coming off the bench more often in terms of the way that he's been used and deployed, and I think people are finally starting to really, well, actually not really, to be honest. You know, I spoke about the fact that people are finally starting to catch on that being on the bench doesn't mean you're not a bad player, but I'm still seeing a lot of talk about, for example, Henry Pollock's being wasted on the bench, and I'm just like, guys, how do you not look at the best team in the world, the way they do things, and not think, oh, maybe that's potentially, I'm not even saying it's the best way of doing it, but maybe that's potentially a way of doing it. So Peter, to answer your question, the team announcement will be at about 7:30 tonight. And like I said, wasn't Bowen pretty cuck over the last while? Well, I thought that actually the last time he played, he had probably his best game in a Bok jersey, to be honest. And he's now a Lions player, so I will not be having any Lions slander on my stream. Josh reckons that Volker and Steenekamp will come off the bench. And so let's go. We're going to, before we put Bowen in over there, who starts at number 2? Again, not that many options, to be honest. You've got Johan Grobbelaar, you've got Jan Hendrik Wessels, and then you've got Marco Verstappen. And those are actually your only 3 already, sort of your hooker options. So first one we go in there is Bowen Fenter into our side over there. And now we're going to try and build the rest of our pack. Then we're going to build our back line. Then we'll chat about the bench. And Josh says, so is Ox officially out injured the whole tour? We haven't got confirmation of that. He is a long-term injury himself, and Franco Marston not available for this weekend. I think we must also not forget how long this tour is. You know, the final game is on the 12th of September. So there is a lot of weeks ahead for players to get involved. And yeah, I think that you know, we weren't sure we were going to see Sasha, but now and he's back. So we are seeing some players getting back a bit quicker than expected. So we're not entirely sure what Oxford's injury officially is and what the kind of return date looks like. Hopefully we will get a bit more information about that. But yes, get your votes in over here. Got to get up to about 25 yard votes, people. Don't be a lurker. Okay, don't sit in the comments or sit on the stream and don't and not vote. You know, this is an interactive stream. If nobody voted, this kind of becomes a bit of a pointless show. Yes, South Africa time 7:30, Pete. So about 7-8 hours time, and we will have the press conference up, obviously, on the channel as well as reaction and the works. So make sure you keep it locked over here. Follow us on our socials. We'll have it all on the socials as well. So yeah, I mean, the general feeling is, or the general vibe is, just go and follow us on all the various different things, and make sure that you are then really clued up when it comes to knowing everything rugby here on Forever Sports, especially as we go into this weekend. You know, got a lot of fun things we're going to reveal for the Greatest Rivalry Tour. The match gets on Saturday, obviously the test match on Saturday evening, Stormers on Friday evening. So a pretty jam-packed week ahead for us, and also some very, very fun time is that we've got the match show being recorded today, and Peter saying usually gets out about 1 p.m. Yes, but he is in Argentina, so obviously time difference meaning playing the big part. It is pretty similar to one where we announced teams on that side, but yeah, time difference playing quite a big role. But in terms of so yeah, we've got the match show being recorded, so that'll drop tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Make sure you keep an eye out and go and listen to it on Spotify, go watch on YouTube. Yesterday we launched a brand new show, the Forever Sports Breakfast Club, with my man X reacting to rugby, which was a lot of fun and going to become a big part of our coverage. So we are trying to launch a lot of new longer format shows, a lot more in-depth, covering a lot more stuff, and really being able to give you guys a much better offering, or more thorough offering, and lots of variety, I think, is probably the big word in terms of our coverage, which has been quite fun to do. Right, so we've got our man at 3, now I mean at 2. Now we're going to see who starts at 3. Your options being Wilco Low, Thomas du Toit. You've got a Zach Porthen who can play there as well, and those are basically your options at tight head. So in the meantime, we're going to throw in Johan Grobler in at hooker, and now we need to decide our tight head. So get your votes in, people, and coming up on the match show this afternoon, it'll be myself and Wes. And the big thing is we're going to be kicking off our prediction league for the Greatest Rivalry Tour. So it is, I will be sharing it on the chat a bit later. Come and join our score prediction league, join our team prediction league. Get involved in my picks, people. Go and start leagues with your mates. Get your granny to go and predict a team. Let's see how she does. Get your dogs to, like we had Paul the Octopus back in one of the football World Cups, and he was predicting the winners. Go and get your dog and see if he can predict who's going to win. Make it a bit of a series, but lock it in on my picks, really, so that we can kind of document. Let it be the official scorekeeper, if nothing else. In terms of what I think this weekend holds for us, well, it's a big audition for a few players for spots for the Greatest Rivalry Tour. A bit of a reminder of what some players are. I think a bit of an acid test for others in terms of where they are with their fitness. You think about a Morne van den Berg coming back from injury, a Sasha coming back from injury, Eben Sear coming back from injuries. So plenty of players, Lewis coming back from injuries, plenty of players who will be making their return from injury this weekend. And there'll be a lot of question marks as to where is their fitness and what's the situation there. So we do have our tight head locked in, and you guys reckon it's going to be Wilco Low. So we'll slot him into the team there. Who starts at number 4 is the big question. And options here are really, you got Eben Etzebeth who can start there. You've got Luit de Jager who can stop there. You've got Ben Jason Dixon who could start there, as well as Kobus Wiese who could start there as well. And I'll tell you what, Kobus Wiese is one of the more impressive players of late, who's really, I think, put his hand up and taken his chance. Niall says, we know what we have in Detroit. Start Low to demoralize the RGs, then bring on Porthen for that bomb squad mobility. I think Porthen off the bench has been an absolute revelation. Very good scrummager, I think, and that's kind of a core part. I think that's where we are very much at the moment. It's about, can you, and I was watching an interview with Eben Etzebeth, and he spoke about that in terms of the best players in the world do their core purpose very well. So, he said that if you want to be a really good number 4 lock, you've got to make sure that you tackle well, that you can contest in the line out, you're hitting your rucks. And then if you add extra stuff like Arke Snyman's offload game, his big thing he tried to add was the charge downs and competing for the high ball. He said that's kind of your party trick, inverted commas. And the Boks have always used that term in terms of a party trick. They like to have players who can do their core skills very well and then have a party trick, in inverted commas. And that could be the stepping game. That can be a kicking game. That can be their offload game. It can be breakdown. But it's all about making sure that your tight head's a good scrummager. First and foremost, good scrummager. Then it's a case of over and above that, what else can they add? So Zach Porthen needs to be, at the very basics of things, a solid scrummager. Anything after that is an absolute bonus. And that's the thing. You kind of look at and yeah, you might to a certain degree say, well, it's slightly better scrummager, but this one offers so much more. But your core skill will always be kind of what defines your pick. So we have put Eben Etzebeth into the number 4 jersey. We're now going to see who puts into the number 5 jersey. Options being Luit de Jager, Ben Jason Dixon again. You've got Kobus Wiese could also go into number 5 jersey over there. So let's try and finish out our tight 5 over here. Ricardo Records play Eben Alert from the bench. Well, there we go. We've got a 6-2 split, bringing the 2 locks back. You'd then be starting Ben Jason Dixon and Kobus Wiese. I'll be surprised if they were to go that. But also, we generally start players coming back from injuries. That's why I think trying to predict the 9-10 combination is quite difficult, because Kobus Reinach generally plays with a Sasha. But you got Sash coming back from injury, as well as Morne van den Berg coming back from injury. So you kind of almost want to be able to start those 2. And the Boks, what they do is that the reason they start players coming back from injuries is if they're off it, if they're struggling, if they might not have the legs to go the full distance, you can pull them off. But you don't want to put on a Sasha coming back from injury at 50 minutes and then after 20 minutes, he's completely bust, and now you've got a player who's always dead off his feet for the final 10 minutes. The idea is you kind of generally put more reliable players on the bench so that if Sasha runs out and after half an hour he's done, you've got a Pollard who can play a good 50 minutes. And obviously, it's not a perfect situation. You might have players who get respectively injured after that. But in general, the feeling is kind of players coming back from injury are more susceptible to injuries, or you don't really know exactly where they are. So sometimes it's safer to start. Kevin says, the Tories are starting number 3 against the All Blacks, but surely Portland was on the flight for a reason. And Kate Uranus says, considering our props normally peak when they're older, Portland is on track for a hell of a career. I mean, massively early shout. I personally think our best tight of all time is Frans Malherbe. And obviously, you've got some legends in and around there. Yanni du Plessis played for years. You've got a CJ van der Linde played for years. But I still think that the Buffel, Frans Malherbe, is probably our greatest tight head. But something about Zach Porthen I think he's got greatness written all over him. Potential captain, softly spoken, very, very humble, nice guy, and one hell of a rugby player. So we're going to put Lutdell into the side over there. We've got our tight 5 sorted. And now the big question is who starts at 6? Your options being Sia Khaleesi. You can have a Cameron Harnicorn at 6. You can have a Marco van Staden at 6. As well as there's kind of really your main options. We'll put in an Albert Lowe in there. Very unlikely, but maybe you could. I think you probably all know the answer to this exact question. And Ricardo says, best tight head, Frans Malherbe. Missed that guy. Classic tight head. Oh, yeah. I mean, completely different players when you think. I think that there might not be more contrast of tight heads between a Zach Porthen and a Frans Malherbe. Frans Malherbe, absolute unit, pure scrummager, very intelligent defender. Not really much of a ball carrier, not massively quick around the park, doesn't necessarily have the soft skills, very good match awareness, the game awareness, reads the game very well. And then you've got Zach Porthen, who's a decent scrummager, but an absolute unit in the loose, loves getting the ball in hand, has got the soft skills, is quick around the park, very mobile, so completely different players. And that's where I think everybody likes, this is what makes rugby so cool, is you've got players who are so contrasting, and those are the same position, let alone the contrast between Frans Malherbe and Cheslin Colby. Zach Porthen will have similar traits to a flanker compared to Frans Malherbe, yet they occupy the same position. So Siakli's going to go to the number 6 jersey. We kind of knew that was going to be pretty straightforward. So the next question is, who starts at 7? Your options being Albert Lowe, options being Cameron Harnicorn, options being Ben Jason Dixon. Could start there as well. And we could also have Cobus Visa there. So let's put Cobus Visa in there. Marco van Staden, probably more likely to start at 8 than anything else. Just saying, Frans Malherbe is also very good. Underrated for so many player games. Underrated part of so many players' games. Well, I think that's like Franco Mostert, for example. Oh, he's too small. He's too this. Franco Mostert, if you look at his battle stats, the rucks he hits in the game, the tackles he makes, phenomenal player. He'll never be considered like one of the best in the world because he doesn't throw audacious offloads or run over people. Archie Snyman is probably one of the best on his day, one of the best locks in the world. He's almost like a sexy lock. I don't know. It's interesting. He's making locks look like a sexy position because he's got the offload game. He's obviously got the physicality. He's got the skill set. So he's a really fun player to watch. And we equate good passes and the likes of that to being great rugby players. And I don't think we've ever given enough attention to the grafters. Your breakdown, who's securing a ball, who's making those consistent tacklers. And Franco Moster's a player who did not miss a single tackle across all 3 playoff matches during the 2023 World Cup. But we're never going to think of Franco Moster as one of the greatest locks in the world. Whereas like a Thibaut Flamand, who played fly off, and he's got a phenomenal skill set, very quick around the park. We look at him and go, oh, that is like such a good player. And a lot of the times we judge players actually not even one of their core focuses. Like Zach Porthen, everyone's raving about Zach Porthen because of his all-round game. Wilco Lowe has always been a very underrated player because he's a scrummaging specialist. It's what he does. So, yeah, as you said, like hitting rucks is a very underrated part of the game. Work rate is a very underrated part of the game as well. So, at the moment, we've got Albert Lowe leading the charge there. And if we can get one more vote there, I'm happy to award it to him. Kevin Victoria says, Ben Jason Dixon can cover lock and 7 from the bench, considering Evan Lurt and Sierra returning from injury. That could come in handy. Yeah, I think he's become gold currency for the box, and that's why like I've been so interested in the fact that they've gone that route with Quiet Horn and making and see if he can cover 10, because you become so useful to the managers or to the coaches if you can cover those positions, because now you're sitting there not worrying about if it goes down because you've got cover. So in terms of your options at 8, you've got Cameron Honeycomb, you've got Kobus Visa, who has started at 8, you've got Marco van Staden, who has been training at 8, and for shits and giggles, because Rassie said that he's actually been training there, I'm going to put Esther Hazen in, because Rassie said he's been training at 8. How's that for a prospect? Lionel says, Low and Honeycomb to start 7 and 8 together because they're already an established combo. Yep. Dixon coming off the bench. And Bobby Dillon reckons Sia, Lord, and Evan will only play 40 minutes, so need cover on the bench. Keith Annie says, saw an English journo on a podcast saying that he thought Paul de Villiers was part of the box support team. Boy, showed them flames. Yeah. Well, in fairness, he's quite small, isn't he? And that's why it's an interesting situation when you look at Duplessis Carifi not being brought by the All Blacks. And one of the reasoning that they said was, oh, he's a bit small. And I'm like, you got a Quacker Smith in the box, you got a Paul de Villiers, and look at the kind of impact that they can give. This whole outdated ideology of players being too small, inverted commas, is incredibly out of date. Paul de Villiers, I think, probably showed that Quacker Smith's really been the champion for the smaller players, because he's one of the best impact players in the world off the bench. And he doesn't weigh too much, does he? Right, so Cameron Honeycomb is going to go into our number 8. And there's our pack. Right, so there we go. Bone Fenter, Jan Kobler, Wilco Low, Eben Etzebeth, Lotte Jager, Sia Cleese, Cameron Honeycomb, and Albert Low is the pack over here. We're going to end that part over here. Now we're going to start getting into the back line. And the big question over here is who starts at 9? And Moni van den Berg is back. Kobus Reinach has gone over, as has Herschel Yankees. Back in the mix. And I thought he was actually very good. Again, yes, it's against Wales and blah, 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 but you can only play what's in front of you. And I thought that when he came off the bench against Wales, he looked very, very good. And the few times I've seen him play in France, he's had a bit of an interrupted season with injuries and the likes of that. He did look very good. Ironically, they're looking at potentially cancelling his contract because he's back in the box. Not because they don't want him, but as soon as players get into that box setup, your availability starts to slide. And I think that's where players now are getting antsy and that's why they sort of try and find those players bobbling under. From a South African perspective, somebody like Carlos Sard has been brilliant for Bordeaux because he's available for all of them. Lance says, opinion, don't really think Dixon is the crown prince for PSF, the Toy 7 jersey. Really think it's between Low and Chatuka. Well, I mean, heavy is the crown, isn't it? I mean, to try and replace a player like that is a tall order. I get what you're saying. I think that I've always liked Vincent Chatuka, and I've always think that he's a good line option, good tackler, good ball carrier. He's quick around the park. I think that Ben Jason Dixon a couple of years ago looked very Peter Steph, the Toy-esque to me. He's bulked up a bit. I think the fact that he covers lock and number 4 lock even potentially is very useful. And I think he's much better in the looser stages of the game. But work rate wise, stats line up quite similar to Peter Steph, the Toy in terms of number of tackles. But PSF Toy is an anomaly in terms of how quick he is, how athletic he is. I mean, Rassie basically said he can play on the wing if we need him to. And that is a very unique prospect. So you guys are going with Moni van den Berg to start. Hope I didn't sway you guys too much towards that. But I'm just giving you the information and what the statistics say. So your options at 10 are Sasha and Pollard and Quine Horn, really, these days. Who has started the game for the box. Not a test match, but he started the game. Josh says, Dixon has gotten better during this year. Ricardo says, Herschel deserves another shot after good performance. Alan says, I'll take Yankees for the game time and opportunity to take his claim. Van den Berg is a known quality. Kevin then saying, might be wrong, but the players doing the presses in the weeks usually start, so that probably means Moni van den Berg will start, even though Reinach usually gets paired with Sasha. Yeah, 9 times out of 10 they do, and they're obviously always definitely involved. So we know Morne will be either starting or on the bench, but it is usually a good indication that they will be starting the players in the press on the Monday. Not always been the case. We have, I think during the World Cup they had somebody in the press and he wasn't even in the 23, which was very deliberate. They did that very deliberately. But yeah, these days it's a pretty safe assumption he will be involved, and I do think very likely to start. And we can put Sasha in there as well, because this is quite nice and efficient over here. Usually there's a lot more consideration, but there's also a lot more options really. Who starts at 11 is the next question. Options being Ethan Hooker. You've got Edwil van der Merwe. You've got Kanan Moody. You can start there, as well as let's put a fussy. You can start on the number 11 jersey as well. And then we'll go to our centers, get our fullback sorted, and then we'll have we'll have a 15. And yeah, as I said, team announcement is tonight at about 7:30. 7:30, quarter to 8 is when we expect the team to drop. If anything changes, you guys will be the first to know, and we will let you know. But we are going to be we will be live for the announcement. We will obviously that stream is already on the channel, so we're going to redirect you to that. You guys can go. Yeah, I think the best thing to do when it comes to that is literally just go and go to that stream and turn your notifications on, because we will go live when the team comes out. And I think that's probably the best way of doing it, is turn your notifications on as soon as the team comes out. We'll go live, so you'll kind of be one of the first to know it. And I'm keen to see how the team goes, and obviously the big team announcement that we're going to be waiting for is in about 3 weeks time, when we get that first announcement for the first test. But till then, we'll have to just make do with what we're going to see against Argentina. And as I said, we kind of know more or less who's going to be involved, but we'll get final confirmation tonight. And I think there's obviously a lot of subplots within that announcement. Even though we know the players who are probably going to be involved, there's still lots of question marks over, the fitness of an Evan Etzebeth or Lua Diaga. Where is Sia in his game? Where's Monica back in his game? Where's Sasha in his game? Lots of those kind of things to debate and discuss and to see on Saturday. Yes, they have internal games, which they always talk about being at a different intensity, but test match has got crowds, it's got a lot more factors, it's a lot less controlled than training games and the likes of that. So we've got enough votes over here. It's quite close between Ethan Hooker and if I remember, but Ethan Hooker did get enough votes to go into there. So who starts at 12? Your options really are kind of only Esterhuizen and Pollard, to be honest, given the fact that we've put Ethan Hooker at 11. So those are kind of your only real options. So a bit of a coin toss. Unless maybe we're going to see one of the forwards. Who haven't we picture? You can see Markham and Starr at inside centre. Andrew Vessel could probably do a job at inside centre in Vegas. Maybe Zach Porthan, goes the inside centre. Mikey says, Hooker is a block I want to see more of. Tough competition on the wing, but his high ball defense, running game support, all really good. Well, I think that's the big thing, isn't it? The wings, when you think of Curtly Lawrence, Ches and Colby, then you've got Ethan Hooker, Kanan Moody. I think Edwin van der Merwe is a tremendous player as well. There's so much depth out on the wing. It's a difficult position to get into. Not there are any easy ones, but I do think that we've got obviously fewer options at 13. That's a position where I think if some of the local players really put their hands up, there's space for that. Some positions are very oversaturated, definitely. But yeah, I think it's going to be quite an easy one. And in fact, you guys are already basically there in terms of your preference. So we're going to throw in Andre Esterhuizen into the number 12 jersey and close that poll. And then we're going to choose our number 13, and not much options here. Who starts at number 13? Well, at the moment, your options are basically Moody or at an absolute push, maybe Pollard. Not that he's ever started at 13. Fussy's never really played there. Edwin van der Merwe's never played there. Quine Horn, I think, played there at school, actually, if memory serves me right. So let's get that vote in. And I'm just going to make sure I'm going to redirect you guys to the right stream later. There we go, turn notifications on. Where are we at here? Yeah, team announcement, Mike, is tonight. As I said, we're around about 7:30 is the chat at the moment. But we will be live for that. And says, my first live, Steve, you're Easter. Well, welcome. Where you been? Where have you been? And that's the question, really. You're missing out on all the chat and all the banter with the lads. At the moment, for our first time ever, we've got a 100% prediction. And that's for Kanan Moody to go into number 13 jersey. Now we're going to do number 14, number 15, and then we have got our 11, our 15 I'm in football mode, yeah. Who starts at number 14? Question mark. And the options being Edwil van der Merwe. You've got Horn as an option, and you've got Rassie as an option in the number 14. And if you guys, by the way, are watching on your laptops or whatever, I mean, phones, you can also do. Actually, to be fair, yeah, these days YouTube minimizes. Please go and subscribe to the Mad Show dedicated channel. It is the Moreland Sorter. That's our weekly show and podcast with good old Wesley Hartman and friends. And it has got its own channel where you can go and watch some of the segments themselves and some of the clips, and there'll be more some exclusive content coming on there as well. So it's as part of our Forever Sports ecosystem, and the show itself comes out every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. So if you'd like to go and check out that over there, and it's also it's the Mad Shows that are across all socials. So please go and follow them that. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, why would you want to follow anybody else? You know, just go and follow the Mad Show, follow all the Forever Sports ones. You can follow myself, Stevie P. Busy doing a complete relaunch of the Stevie P stuff, which is a little bit different from Forever Sports, a bit more multi-sport sometimes, a bit more reaction, a bit more. Got more license to say what I want, and I can give some more controversial things. But we've got sports therapy, which was a fun segment I did last year for a bit, being rebooted. So yeah, as well, if you guys want to check my own stuff, then go and check out the Stevie P channel. In terms of number 14, 93% going with Edwil van der Merwe. And now I think this is going to be an interesting vote. Who starts at 15? Between Horn and Rassie. A lot of people have been saying that we need to see a start from Quine Horn. I would like it, and if he doesn't start, I really would like to see him come off the bench at 15. Kevin says Rassie needs a big game with the squad composition. He probably has to start with Horn on the bench. Tend to agree. Alternatively, you could have Horn at 15 and not have a number 10 option on the bench if he goes to 10, but I'll be surprised if Pollard not involved in some shape or form. But yeah, I think Rassie at the moment is one of the players who probably maybe didn't have his best Nations Championship under a little bit of pressure. We know that he was very good when Damian Willemse was injured. Damian Willemse, I think, is at the moment trending towards a World Player of the Year nomination. And it's difficult to always match up to that. But I do think that Rassie, even by his standards, wasn't as good as we've come to expect from him during the Nations Championship. So I think there is pressure on him at the moment. As mentioned, and I think it's a good point to make. You know, Mike said I would pick Horn at 15, but I know Rassie won't. In terms of we are now predicting the Springbok 15, not what we would do. It's not a personal preference thing. This is not. Got to get into the mind of Rassie Erasmus and see what he might think. And what a mind that would be to get into. It's interesting because he's such an organized, clear thought person, but I also think that it's chaotic. So I reckon the mind of Rassie Erasmus is like just chaos, very productive chaos. But I can't imagine it's like a filing system. You know, I can't imagine he's just like proper like evil scientist genius, big lab of things like exploding in the corner. I reckon that's probably what Rassie Erasmus's mind looks like. You know, I think that something like a Felix Jones is quite an organized filing system. Probably even got a secretary involved in there. Don Human's basically just a butcher. I reckon that would probably be the mind of Don Human. There'll be just, yeah, literally just different cuts of meat everywhere. Yeah, there we go. We could do a whole segment on what would the mind of each Bok coach look like. So concert, Keith, says Quine is such a great player to watch ball in hand. Lionel reckons Rassie was surprised with solid performance. Well, I hope so. I hope so. We want to see all our players the best. And he's a player who I was critical of. I said he hadn't been very good recently. Then he came back and had a very strong season. And you guys have gone with saying that Rassie is starting at fullback. He's a quality player. Nobody doubts the quality. The form at the moment might not be where it's at, but as I said, he's had enough seasons where he's been really, really good that no one's questioning his position in the squad. And there it is. That is the squad you guys have picked. And I'm gonna generate our graphic here. So we're gonna lock that in, and then it generates a picture, which we can then you can share with your mates. So go and even share with me if you want to. You know, I'll be your mate. Go and do that on my picks. Go and predict your side. go and download the graphic, send the graphic onto your family group and the likes of that, and go and look at what all prediction is. That is what the graphic looks like. You see, it's got all your different players, the likes of that. If you've predicted the score, by the way, it also shows what your score prediction is. But there it is. That is our Forever Sports Community's starting 15 for the box. We will be live later for the official name. This is just the prediction, or rather what you guys are predicting in terms of this team. Kathy says Rassie's thoughts are all over the place, but he knows exactly where everything is. That's basically how I live, which doesn't go very well with the girlfriend, because I know where everything is, but it's a bit chaotic. And then people move things and they'll organize it, and yeah, jeepers. Then I can't find things. And yet somebody will say, where's this? And I can go straight to a cupboard, into a whole thing, and say, oh, here it is. But yeah, so in terms of this, what would the bench would then look like? Well, you'd probably then have, you'd have Jan-Andrew Wessels, I think, on the bench. You don't have to, but I think you would be. I think covering hooker. I think you'd have Gerard Steenekamp in the loose head. I think you'd have Zach Porten covering tight head. I think you'd then have a Ben Jason Dixon and a Marco van Staden as your sort of forward, or Equippers Visa potentially as your replacements. And I personally think we'll go with a 5-3 split and have Herschel Yankees, Honje Pollard, and Quine Horn based on this. That would be my guess. I think we'll go with a 5-3 split. Maybe we go with the 6-2 split, who knows? But I personally think we're a 5-3 split, because I think we've taken enough backline players where we'd probably like to give them some game time. Mikey says, I think it's a filing system. The more tricks you have, the higher up the list you are. Well, there we go. Steven says, 6-2 split on the bench to cover all the players coming back from injury in the pack. Fair point. Ricardo says, yeah, that's what you said. And then Mike says, video suggestion, predicting a Stormers lineup versus All Blacks, who even is considered to play. Yeah, cheapers, that's quite a big squad to go through. Yeah, it would be interesting. We can have a look at exactly. I mean, but the biggest problem is the starting under 20s complicate that. Because all of a sudden, you've got a Yakim Ahmed who's potentially going to start. Marcus Muller is going to be involved. Ollie Reed's apparently training. So you got like the 70-man strong squad, and who bloody knows what the fitness is. JD Schickling apparently is slightly injured, but potentially back, might not be risked, and it becomes a bit of a disaster. Lance says we have enough versatility for a 5-3 split for this game, and Leroy reckons big dip for Malcolm and the rest, I believe. Yeah, I do think hooker is one of the positions where we need to find someone. I'm gutted for Marnus van der Merwe, because I think that had he been fit, it would have been an opportunity now to have made a case. But I do think that hooker is a area of concern. People, thank you very much for joining me on this. We will see you later on the official announcement stream, which will go live about 8:30 as soon as that team is out. So keep a lookout for that. Make sure you go and get this submitted on My Picks as well, and go and join the My Picks League. In fact, I'm actually going to share the league. You can join the Mad Show League and get involved over there with your predictions. And yeah, you guys can come and try and predict against the likes of myself, Where's Ronaldo, and the likes of that. So we do have a Forever Sports one as well as a Mad Show League. So I'm going to share the link to the Forever Sports Team Prediction League for the Greatest Rivalry Tour, and you can go and try and predict those ones there. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. There's obviously the Springbok games, and there's the entire game, which is all the different teams and the likes of that. So come and join that over there, and also make sure you come and join our score prediction leagues as well. There's lots of leagues to join. I'll basically just do a bit of a list and just go and join them all. But they're all there and public, so you can go and just join whatever you want. But it is all on mypicks.app. So go and check it out. Go and get yourselves your account sorted and get yourself ready for what's going to be a bumper month and a bit of coverage. Player ratings, all of that here on Forever Sports. Smash like on the video on the way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Go and subscribe to the Mad Show. Go and subscribe to DVP Sports. You never know. Maybe you want to see more of this face in your life. Why wouldn't you? And if you would, it's DVP Sports across all socials. The Mad Show is ZA across all socials. And then obviously Forever Sports